Hey everyone, it's Nightharo here, and today we're reviewing Sigil's Secret Menu by Dying Sun Games, which is currently, at time of filming, the #1 most popular title under $5 on the DMs Guild. So with that, let's go ahead and get in and talk about it. What do you get for $5? Well, in short, I think you get quite a bit. As it says in the subtitle, it's a buffet of planar magic items, as well as some colorful Sigil street vendors. So all 6 of these vendors are set in an area of Sigil that is kind of a ramshackle bazaar, and then food vendors and everything else. So that is where these are actually placed. For those who don't know, Sigil has been around for quite a while. It sits entirely within a torus, which is just a mathematical term for a donut shaped. So everything is inside, and the only way in is through portals. And it sits atop an infinite spike, a Gabriel's horn, if you will, for those who are into mathematics. If you're not into mathematics, go check it out. It's really interesting. I feel like Sigil was made just by a math nerd. All right, so what do you get in the book here? Well, you get 6 street vendors that are incredibly well fleshed out. What I mean by that is there's usually at least 1 or 2 names of the proprietor and someone else who works there, or many of them, they have a couple of proprietors. There are backstories for them. There are full menus, including some minor magical effects by many of the items here. There are quest starters for every single one of them, and it's meant to be integral to the usage of this book, but honestly, I just think they're great quest starters, just period, and you could pull them out and use them just about anywhere. There are also even mini games, or at least like skill checks that are included within some of the various vendors that you can deal with. There's also just an incredible amount of flavor. I mean, I kind of already told you that with saying that, like, there's quest starters, they tell you about the full menu, they have backstories for everybody, there's notes about the interplay of the various street vendors here, and they kind of form a criminal cohort, if you will. Other things in here, there's over 30 magic items, and they range from like consumables like potions and stuff like that, and even some minor magic items that aren't necessarily listed in the back but are included in the book, how they work. And then it goes all the way up to like those really, you know, crazy, super powerful, unlock slowly as you level up kind of tier items as well. There's also RP magic items that can affect your plot and the story of everything that's going on. So a lot in here. So what do I really like about this book? Well, I love the story and RP aspects of it. The 6 vendors that you get I love the stories. They're really fun. I read every single one of them in detail, read a couple of them a few times, and I'm trying to do this review quick. But I was just so interested, and I thought it was so cool. I really enjoy them, really like the RP. You know, there's kind of included this way of getting to the secret menu, right? And being able to purchase some magic items, which is what kind of the back half of the book is for. I honestly, though, feel like these vendors, you could take them and put them anywhere and use them in a lot of different situations. And we'll talk more about that at the end. But I just love the flavor and the role playing as a longtime GM. It's everything I want and more. Some of the stuff I would change, I would riff on, as always. I'm sure you guys will as well. But it's fleshed out well enough that it makes that really easy, and it does most of the work for you, and then let you you could very easily customize this to your own campaign. But those 6 street vendors could be anywhere, and I love their stories, and I love everything about them. I also really like a lot of the smaller magic items. I think they add a lot of flavor. You know, one of my issues with like some of the bigger magic items and more powerful things is like you can only get like 1 per character per campaign kind of thing. You know, they're very rare, they're very irregular. Having small magic items that are very limited in scope and what they can do, to me as a GM, is so much more useful. And also having those really cool RP focused items. So there's like a seed that will purify an area. That could be a great, you know, starter for a druid who wants to make a grove. It could be part of your plot if you're dealing with blighted territory. Magic items like that are what really, I like those so much more than the stuff that's more player, you know, oriented, right? Like I can do so much more with all that kind of stuff as a GM, and it's not the thing that like a power gamer would look at and be like, oh yeah, you need, you know, your +5 Vorpal sword or whatever it happens to be. So I really like that, and it's one of the things that I really like about this book. The quest starters from each of the vendors as well, also like 10 out of 10. You know, they're meant to be able to like ways, suggestions on how you can get to the secret menu, right? How you can get to the hidden like magic item sales area of the bazaar. So just to give you a little bit of idea of what I'm talking about, one of the vendors is a family of Aarakocra, and they're crow Aarakocras. And they each kind of have an idea of how, I think it's more like barbecue. I remember they mentioned something about dry rub, but it's basically roadkill. And and it's like sustainably sourced, right? And that's the flavor of it. And you can bring roadkill to them and they'll make it into some food. And it turns out to be very delicious. Now, each family member has an idea of exactly what, you know, the recipe should be. And so each one of them makes something different, and they all give different minor magical effects. Now, if you want to get access to the secret menu, then you and there's a quest starter in here for how you might go about helping them. And that is certainly could be like a whole quest line, right? To be able to get access to it. So maybe there's some magic item that they have access to that your party needs. There's also rules for the hideout wherever, you actually go to purchase these magic items and peruse them. And you could break in potentially. It's really like a self-contained, story arc in and of itself if you wanted it to be. And that's just one example with one of the vendors. And, with that, some of the other ones aren't quite as well, as dramatic or as fleshed out or whatever, but several of them are. So I think that's just awesome. I think it's amazing. And again, I feel like you could pick this up and place it anywhere. These are street vendors, and that's how everything is flavored. I could very easily see taking one of these and reflavoring it and making it like a fine dining restaurant, right? Where they serve you roadkill. This could be very fun. Sure, it's a bit silly. Some of the other ones don't need and are not as silly, but I thought this one was really cool. The idea of coming from a place where I've actually known people who've eaten roadkill. I think it's pretty interesting and pretty funny. Little redneck, if you will. I don't know. There's a lot there, a lot you can do with this. Other things you could riff on, there is a mind flayer that has been cut off from his hive. You could riff on this. I think some Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing could be really fun way to treat that. They include the dash bags, which are basically one-use portable holes or bags of holding. You could also do other things with that, like maybe perhaps they're to-go wrapping for a little bit of extra fee. It's been infused from the plane of limbo with the magic from that area. And so whenever you wrap it, it holds things in stasis for a short time. For those who don't know, in limbo, time doesn't really pass. So you don't age, you don't grow, anything like that. So maybe they have some wrappers, some paper wrappers, and it's disposable. And, it's not that really, something that your characters can break, but they have it. And either they can take that to-go food because some of it gives you some minor magic effects that could be useful at some later date. So they could have, maybe it only lasts a week or something like that. That could be another idea that you could riff on. Obviously, your characters, if they're munchkins, are going to try to break that. So maybe if they wrap too many or if they try to do something else. The other thing about limbo is that it's chaotic. So maybe it ruins whatever's in. Maybe it transforms it randomly. Maybe your burger turns into worms or whatever it happens to be. But I think there's a lot of ideas you could riff on with that and a lot of fun ideas. And one of my, if I could call it a critique of this book, is that there's some other stuff that I would like to have seen more of, as opposed to these big, powerful magic items, which I think a lot of people are looking for. And, that brings us to let's talk about the few cons of this book. Well, for me, the thing that I really loved the most about this book was not the magic items at the end. And again, I'm coming from a GM's perspective primarily, even though I've been a player and love to play. I don't know. I always think of things from the GM's perspective, I suppose, always thinking of fun things to do for my players. But, whenever I look at this, like the 6 stories that you get and the 6 vendors you get, there's just so much there. And then, some crazy powerful magic item that I can only give to one person, one campaign, not as cool, not as something I can use as often. The dash bags are incredibly fun. Some of the potions are incredibly fun. Some of the minor magic effects are incredibly fun. And I would love to see more of that. Also, RP type things. So the seed of purification that will purify an area or something like that. Those more role-playing focused things, I would love to see more of those because you can use those so much more often. Even if you're not giving them to your party, they can be in your world, and then it gives you ideas of how everything in that area is structured, right? If there's some powerful plot magic item or story RP magic item in an area, it can kind of tell you from there, you can decide, if this is here, what would happen? And it really gives you easy ways to kind of flesh out and make your world feel more real. And as a GM, that's what I want more of, less of hey, this is some really cool, powerful magic items, of which there are only a couple. The magic items vary completely from potions or these one-off dash bags to those world shaping. There's a bow that if you die, it will, and it's sentient, it will bring you back to life, right? It will spare your life one time and then the bow is destroyed, right? So there's some very, very powerful high level magic items, and then there's some one-off stuff. But overall, for a GM, for under $5, $5 and under, definitely something I would impulse buy. If you're considering this at all, if any of the idea of a food vendors and your characters interacting with them, but also being a crime ring, you can split all these things off very easily. If you didn't want them to be part of a crime ring, if you wanted to make, one of them like a fancy establishment, maybe they're all fancy restaurants and they're set in Shar in the City of Towers. whatever it happens to be, if you're looking for something like that, I think it's here for you. I think there's some pretty cool stuff, and the writing is done quite well. Anyways, as a GM supplement, I think this is great. I think it was really fun, and I give it 2 thumbs up. I would definitely say for under $5, if this is something you're looking for, I would 100% recommend it. I think the story and the character hooks and the plot hooks that come in here are really the thing that sticks out to me and why I would purchase this book. The magic items are cool. Yes, I personally don't often feel like I want more magic items, and when I do want them, I want ones that I can use everywhere in my world, and there are some in here, but I would not say it's enough to justify, don't buy it just for that. I think you really want a little bit more from it, and again, the story, the food vendors, the plot hooks, that's all absolutely worth it. So kind of interrupting myself here. I just got some information, so I'm recording this after the rest of the video, but I just got some information that there was actually an interview done that is up on YouTube, and I'll link it down below, where there's kind of interviews with each one of the creators. There was actually 11 writers that all went into writing this, and I almost mentioned this in the video, but 11 writers, and it really has a cohesive vibe. So editing, finding the same voice together, really well done, guys. There is also links to some upcoming projects, and I will link those down below. None of these are sponsored. We're just trying to support other creators in the space, and I really like what these guys did. Anyways, just a quick review today. Hopefully it was helpful. We'll catch you guys in the next one.